Over the few years I have been doing this channel, both in the comments and also in person before I moved to Japan, one question I would always be asked is, how do I get good at doing pixel art? The answer is surprisingly simple. It's persistence. The same as anything in life. If you persist long enough, you'll probably become quite good at whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Admittedly, things like doing it for the joy of it, being able to constructively criticise your own work will go a long way, but will usually come of persistence. One thing that definitely doesn't make or break you, however, is equipment. Some people use a mouse, some people use a tablet. That's a matter of personal preference, rather than one is better than the other and one will make it easier than the other. Starting with what you have is always best. The more you get used to what you have in terms of tools, the better you will understand what type of tools could potentially improve your creative process as well over time. Starting small is also advantageous because there's a wide gulf between creating a simple sprite like I am in today's video and creating a full-page piece of pixel artwork, or indeed a tile map for a game stage, for example. If you're starting out with pixel art, I really recommend starting with a small sprite. The reason being is that they are simple to get started with and you can get to know how shading works on a pixel based level much quicker than with something that is going to cover the entire screen. The sprite can be anything, an object like a piece of fruit, a treasure chest, an animal, or a person. Any kind of smaller object is a good place to start. Start with something simple like a 4-colour sprite. In fact, I almost always start with my pixel art on a 4-colour basis, as it allows me to focus on the overall form and basic details before getting hung up on the shading and so forth. Study sprites of systems like the NES or Famicom or similar, as there is no shame in copying, as this will get you versed with how the sprites are structured, and then you can start changing and see what works for you. After all, you may want to start developing your own style. So there is no shame in copying something, but don't try and pass off a Mario sprite as one of your own creations. This will help you build confidence with doing this and also familiarity with the tools you are using. The more fluent you become with your own tools, the more transparent they'll become to the process and you can start concentrating on the artwork itself. I also tend to suggest the NES and Famicom sprites to start with, as they tend to be simpler in terms of shading and have squarish pixels. If you like the Japanese style, there is also that bonus as well. But don't let that stop you from looking at sprite sheets from other systems that you're interested in. For example, if you're interested in creating sprites that are based on a particular arcade or a system like the ZX Spectrum or the Commodore 64, then by all means be inspired by those sprite sheets. From a simple 4-colour palette, I then gradually extend towards 16 colours, refining the shading bit by bit, and this will also come in time for you as well. Techniques such as dithering and anti-aliasing can all be developed through small sprites. I actually have a back catalogue on some of these subjects, so why not take a look? They'll be in the video description as well as in the top right hand corner hopefully. Another good little challenge is to create a small range of sprites using one consistent palette. My video on how to mix nice colours will really help you here. This is a great way of building consistency over time, something that will really hold a game together, for example. When it comes to larger pieces, again copying could be your friend to start with. I do this quite a bit when practicing new techniques, as this takes the pressure off having to have an original idea, and eventually over time, from mimicking and copying, you will naturally develop your own techniques and keep refining them over time. I do this both on paper and with pixel art. With enough time, and I probably mean quite a few months at least, you'll start to be able to apply those techniques to your own creations because you will have had the power of persistence. So don't feel ashamed of copying. I often use references when drawing poses, for example, but because over time I've built the basic skills to draw almost any pose from scratch, I can translate it to my own characters with relative ease, and eventually, as with this sprite, you'll do it with your own creations with no references at all because you'll have built the skills within you. Also, a cautionary note that applies to all forms of artistic expression, and maybe life in general. Never compare yourself to others, but always be inspired by others. No good will come of comparing yourself. Develop your own style and have faith in what you do, and you'll extract your own vision through persistence. But certainly be inspired by others, try to figure out how they do certain techniques and apply it to your own artwork. It's easy to be overwhelmed with what you see on social media if you use it, but in reality, if you're pushing on towards what you want to do, it doesn't matter a jot how your work compares to others, because it's not some kind of objective competition. Anyway, there's my little sprite for Saki, my OC for my manga / comic Future Savers, which you can actually read for free if you like. It's a skateboarding / slice of life story. If you're indifferent or don't even really care for skateboarding, you may be actually quite surprised where the story goes. But anyway, I want to actually create a game at some point, including Saki, for the Game Boy, but I'm struggling for ideas at the moment. I don't really want to create something like Bad and Rad was for the Game Boy, that's a little bit too derivative. And the overall story of Future Savers doesn't really lend itself to a Game Boy game in particular. It might make a visual story or something like that, but there are parts of the story which maybe I can extract into some form of action game. It'll be interesting to see what I can come up with, but certainly I'm way too busy for that at the moment, but in time it'll be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, it's only through persistence over the years and learning to use what I have and just doing things to the joy of it that I found myself able to do pixel art and anything in life, and you can too. My biggest piece of advice that possibly trumps persistence is that life is too short to do things just because you want to be good at them. Do it because you love it, and that's all that really matters. If you keep that at the heart of what you do in life, you will become good at the things you do in life.